Goeie! Welcome to Deep Fries, the podcast where we take a deep dive into Frisian topics.
We're your hosts, Tess, I'm Dutch.
And Emma, I'm Frisian, and we are students from the University of Groningen. Each week we focus on a topic relevant to the Frisian language and invite a local researcher to talk about it. This week, speech recognition technology.
Radio Omrop Fryslan, the regional public broadcaster of the Dutch province of Friesland, has existed for a long time, since 1946. When they had the desire to produce a searchable digital archive of all their newscasting, they wondered how. Manually listen to everything and write things like speaker and topic into a computer? Nope. That's way too much work. Speech-to-text software could offer a solution, since they can nowadays easily transcribe commonly used languages like English or Spanish. But what if the language spoken is a minority language, or if the minority language is used interchangeably with a majority language? This kind of software cannot handle that. Enter FAME, or Frisian Audio Mining Enterprise, a project of the Frisian Academy and Radboud University, who developed an automatic speech recognition system built for the Frisian language.
We are here today at the Frisian Academy in the local lab, and joining us is Dr. Jelske Dijkstra, who took part in the FAME project as a researcher. She is not only a Frisian herself, but also a postdoc researcher at the Frisian Academy, with, among other things, an expertise in bilingualism, child language development, and speech recognition. The questions that we will explore with Dr. Dijkstra today are: how do we develop such a software, and what are the difficulties for such software when it comes to minority languages like Frisian? And what is the future of such speech recognition software beyond Omrop Fryslan?
Hi, Jelske, welcome. Thank
Hi.
you so much for joining us. We wanted to dive right in with our first question. So Frisian is a relatively small language. It has about 350,000 speakers, if I'm right, who mostly reside in the Dutch province of Friesland. And importantly, most, if not all, speakers of Frisian are also bilingual in at least Dutch. Can you tell us a little bit about why speech recognition technology might struggle with a language like Frisian?
Well, before we developed the speech recognition system, there was no speech recognition for Frisian, and you need data to train such a program. That was one thing, but also Frisians are, as you said, bilingual. So as many bilinguals do, they code switch between Dutch and Frisian, and due to the language contact and the fact that you speak Frisian and Dutch both sometimes in the same conversation, well, that results in speech that is bilingual. You switch sometimes within a sentence, or sometimes there is not a regular word, a common word for something, a concept in Frisian, and you use the Dutch word.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a challenge for a speech recognition system.
Yeah, because speech recognition systems are really catered to pick up on one language.
Well, it depends. You need to train the system on, well, the type of data that you want to recognize. So if it's from a bilingual speaker, then you should use bilingual speech. But it's very difficult to gather bilingual speech, to get such a data set, because it happens unconsciously.
Yeah,
so it happens so unconsciously that you cannot ask people to do it, because then they think about it and, and it becomes unnatural. So
exactly, and they then will alter how they speak, and maybe switch more to one, stick more to one language.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the switching between languages is what linguists call code switching. And you talked about in the radio broadcasts of Omrop Fryslan that they use a lot of this code switching, right?
Yeah, it might happen that they use Frisian and the other one speaks Dutch because they understand it, or otherwise that they speak Dutch themselves.
Yeah.
But as I said, also in radio broadcasts, you will have these code switching because you're dealing with bilingual people who will use a lot of Dutch in their Frisian.
Exactly. It's like the natural way of speaking for people who know more than one language. So can you explain what the basics are of an ASR, so automatic speech recognition system?
Well, yes. When you use an ASR system, you first have speech, because it goes from speech to text, So you first have speech that will be analyzed by an acoustic model, and that kind of links the letters to the sounds it recognizes. Then the word or the sounds are going to a pronunciation lexicon, where it can identify the words that are probably used. Then next, a language model will be used within the ASR system, which corrects the sentence, because you never speak the same, you never pronunciate the word the same, exactly the same. So there's a variety in how you say things, and sometimes a different word pops up because you were a little bit unintelligible. And then the language model says, well, the chances that that word is very small, so it's probably this word, and then it corrects the output, and that will be the text.
Okay, so the language model also really looks at how a sentence is built in the language.
It's kind of a statistic model based. It's trained with texts.
So we were reading your research, and we were trying to understand how it works to make this bilingual speech recognition software. And you already said that the software needs to be trained to recognize different languages, because it's a speech-to-text software. So it transcribes what is said. And but you need a database for this. And you said there was no database for bilingual Frisian-Dutch language. Can you tell us a bit how this works to train this system?
Well, what we first did was choose over 200 samples of just 5 minutes of speech from a radio program, and these programs were very diverse. So all kinds of topics were present in the database. In total, we had 18 hours of all these fragments. They were transcribed by 2 people and then corrected by me. That data set was then used to train an acoustic model. That's a technique from AI. And with that acoustic model, the model starts to recognize the sounds of Frisian and Dutch.
Okay.
And it connects these sounds with the letters. And we also collected a lot of data, text data, like from the internet website of Omrop Fryslan, news items, but also novels or whatever there was concerning Frisian. So we could also make a language model, because that's a second kind of model you need for ASR. At least for the ASR system of those days, because the developments are so fast nowadays.
I can imagine. Like new things are coming out all the time.
So with those text files and the transcripts, because those are text as well. We developed the language model. And we also developed a dictionary. Pronunciation dictionary, and all the variations in those pronunciations, because you have also lexical variety,
of course, between dialects, for instance.
Okay, so we read that the FAME project ran from 2015 to 2018, and during this time it was working on making an accessible digital archive of the Omrop Fryslan radio broadcasts. But we've read that the software keeps developing beyond this project, and we've read that the FAME speech recognition is trying to be used for offering subtitles to council meetings for Frisian municipalities. Does FAME have some sort of special version specifically for the council meetings? Because, I can imagine that meetings are very different from 5-minute short clips from Omrop Fryslan.
Exactly. The speech recognition system is always under development, because language can change, but also the software can change, and it's the technology is moving really, really fast in the field of speech technology. So you're always updating the system. But as I said, also the language. You think a 2-year period doesn't matter, but it does.
Yeah.
There
are new words.
For example, COVID, etc. It's always on the move.
Yeah.
We thought, because Omrop Fryslan, the radio data set, also contains political discussion. So we first thought, well, let's just try it with the FAME speech recognizer as it is. And we've discovered that it wasn't performing very well because, in all these municipalities you have different political parties, very local political parties with names that were not in the system yet and could not be recognized by the system yet. Every municipality has its own problems to deal with on the environmental topics or whatever. So there were very specific topics per municipality, but also they were using a lot of jargon in the sense of abbreviations. And those were not recognized properly as well. So that's when we decided to specify the models on those type of meetings. So we gathered again a lot of audio data from those streaming videos you see of the municipalities. We collected the audio of these videos, and these audio, the audio was transcribed manually as well. And also the speech of these different locations, because now you also have to take into account all the specific varieties of Frisian. It was very challenging to deal with that, and I think it's a little bit of a pity that we cannot still transcribe or automatically recognize the city Frisian varieties or the Beelds variety spoken up in the north in the municipality of Waardhoeken. It's just we don't have enough data for that.
So that was very interesting. Another question on the software, because you just told us that it has to be updated frequently because obviously the software gets outdated, but also the speech. So what happens if it's not updated frequently enough? Does it lag behind? Does it?
You have to make sure that it still works because computers are also the system is also updated many times. So you have to make sure the connection is still good. But what I mean mainly is that also in AI you have different neural networks. This is how the program is called, or the AI techniques are called.
The new kind of AI techniques, right? Yeah.
With which you use to develop a model. And it's very important that if there's a new technique that you use that one as well, because it usually outperforms the older ones.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you already gone through those processes, shifted?
Well, within the municipality project, we work together with a speech technology company, Humane. It's located here in Leeuwarden. They have the capacity to keep up with these developments. We as a research institute do not have that capacity because we work in projects, and when a project is ended, there's no money anymore to to keep it updated. So that's why we work together with Humane. They're a lovely company that is not. It's a commercial company, of course, but it's not. It has a very societal impact because the transcribers they use are people with a distance to the labor market. At the moment, we have trained the system on an old, outdated model already, and they already did some pilots with a new model, Wave 2 FAC, it's called, and it gives much better results already because it just works differently. So we're right now in the process of training that other new model with the same data.
Jelske, is there anything we forgot to ask you or something you still want to say?
In the sense that I think it's very important that, minoritized languages usually they have lower resources, and it's important that these languages will also get speech tech tools. Because if people don't have access to speech technology in their native language, and when it's a minority language or minoritized language, they are already forced to use a more dominant language, and it's another domain where they cannot use the minority language.
Well then, thank you so much for making time for us and joining our podcast.
Okay.
I think
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, I think we both learned a lot today, and I hope the listeners did as well. And where would we be able to find more information on you or your projects?
I have, of course, the website of the Frisian Academy, but I also have a personal website, jelskedijkstra.frl.
Okay, good. Well, we will link those in the description, so the people interested can look those up. We'll also put the link to the FAME project there, the paper we read, so people can also read about that if they want to. This will be it for today. Thank you again, Jelske, and thank you to the listeners, and we will see you next week.
Okay.